Welcome back. Thank you very much for staying with us. In today's digital age, social media has become an influential platform for communication, expression and sharing ideas. However, with the freedom and immediacy it offers, there's a critical need to balance this freedom with legal responsibilities. Social media posts or content deemed reckless can land individuals in legal trouble as they infringe upon others' fundamental rights. To shed light on this vital intersection of the law and social media, we're joined by Pritesh Sherjwa, a commentator on social media trends, as well as lawyer Noma Machonchi. Both of them will be in conversation with us on this very important subject. To the both of you, good morning and thank you very much for joining us. Now, the evolution of social media, I must say, has been quite remarkable to watch. We moved from using it as a tool to connect with friends to utilizing it for business, political mobilization, as we've seen, and unfortunately, character assassination and disinformation. Perhaps to start with you, Pritesh, talk us through this evolution of social media.
Yeah, thank you so much. And social media really was, and the way it actually started was a way to connect people. And one of the things you do find is that when you scale and connect people in different ways, it's not just the positive stuff that you get in it. So it's not just the connecting people for sharing ideas and collaboration, but you also connect people in a way that sometimes some of them will abuse these platforms and use it for a way to seed hate, hate speech, stereotypes, negative communication. And therefore, social media now really truly is an ecosystem where both the good and the bad of society exists.
But if we had to now weigh the two, which one outweighs the other? Are we seeing it still being a fairly peaceful tool to share information and for political parties to mobilize, or it really has become the toxic space, as most people say?
Yeah, I think if I can see to that is, we focus on the toxicity because that's what's front and center. But the reality is that all of the great stories, the way social media actually adds value to our lives every single day, to be able to connect with people, to be able to connect with organizations, to be able to share our own thinking on a larger platform, is something where there really isn't much newsworthiness in that. So it's not shared by most people. But the toxicity is shared. So in truth, in the vast majority of the circumstances, social media is a powerful tool. It's a great tool. But like anything else in society, the negative always will be amplified.
Noma, let's rope you in now on the legal side of things. Now, this responsibility that must come with this tool, a very big tool with great reach and immediacy. What are the responsibilities or even consequences for not acting in accordance with the generally accepted standards of social media?
Good morning. Well, remember, we live in a democratic society, so whether we are living in real life or on social media, we still have to abide by the laws. So we see people breaking the law, whether in terms of civil rights of others or even breaching criminal provisions by using social media. And what comes to top of mind is the crime of defamation, where one will say things in public. And remember now, social media has a wider reach. So one is defaming people en masse. It's like putting information on a billboard about someone. Then one opens himself up to litigation.
Noma, there's been this general misconception for many that if you're going to defame somebody, at best, it's going to be a civil matter. But we saw with this current matter relating to Basetsana Khumalo that it became a criminal matter, where now we're talking criminal injury, because most people would be very reckless on their keyboards and say, you know what, at best it will be a civil matter and I have nothing. So if you sue me, you get nothing. Talk to us about this type of a case, which has, or at least with these litigants, they've opted to go the other route of criminal injury as opposed to taking it to a civil court.
Indeed, and that is what has happened. As we saw in this case that you referred to, there was the woman was found guilty of criminal injury and criminal defamation. So there's a fine line between what we can say is civil and then what becomes criminal. So criminal injury has been a crime, a common law crime in our law, and it is not just civil. So the unlawful and intentional impairment of the dignity or privacy of another person. So now that is a criminal offense, which is then punishable. So one can go to jail, one can receive a fine for doing that. And we've seen similar cases in the past.
Now, just before I go back to Pritesh, I just want to find out what constitutes reckless content here, because some people could harmlessly be thinking they're sharing certain content, but then if we look at legal prescripts, we then find out that in fact it would constitute reckless content.
Well, it becomes reckless. For example, to establish defamation, one must prove that the statement was false. It was made with the intention to injure the other party's reputation, meaning the defamed person. And then they must also prove that the statement was published to a third party, meaning it was published to more than the person themselves, to a third party, and it caused harm to the reputation of the person. So that becomes reckless. So if you do not have what are these things called? If you cannot justify, if you cannot have a justification of why you said the statement in public, then you find yourself in hot water.
And then Pritesh, on your side, what have trends indicated insofar as people's general awareness of the fact that certain content would constitute reckless content? Do you get a sense that most people are aware, or it's mostly posted because they're either ignorant or naive?
Yeah, I think precedence is what really generates awareness right now. So one of the challenges you have that lots of people are not aware of the level of trouble that they can get into in terms of the material that they're actually posting. But having cases like this, like the Basetsana Kumalo case, which goes into the public domain, which again goes into mainstream media, also ensures that it creates more awareness and education for people. So unfortunately, there is a case where you do need those situations to happen. You do need the precedent to be set, and you do need the strong arm of the law to come down on people for other people to be able to say, I need to not do this, and I need to be much more mindful in the way I actually post. The anonymity conversation is a big one, because most people assume that if they're tweeting under an alias, that it would be difficult to find them. How easy is it if we had to look at this, Pritesh? Yeah, no, nothing is anonymous these days. In truth, we all leave a digital footprint, and our digital fingerprints are everywhere. So right now, even as we have this call, there's an exact trace and digital trace that comes to me, to you, and from the studio. So overall, even though people may not use their name, if they're using places and they're using social media platforms to spread hate, what they should know is that there is a trail that can lead back to them. And if it does lead back to them and somebody's willing to put the effort to go into it and prove that it was them who was actually spreading this information, they will be held to the full account of the law.
And effort in this instance also unfortunately translates to money, because you're going to have to find an IT specialist, which would be a bit costly. But hopefully many of those trolls, as they're called, would hear today that in fact they're not as anonymous as they think they are. Thank you to the both of you for joining us this morning. That is Pritesh Sera, he's a social media expert, as well as Noma Grina. She is a legal expert, speaking to us on the dangers and also the good parts of social media.